Good day, everyone. Welcome to the eCon Planning Suite Question and Answer webinar. My name is Donna Thrush, and I work at the National Center on Family Homelessness, a practice center of the American Institutes for Research. I'll be moderating today's webinar. I would like to thank you all for joining us. We'll be featuring the following presenters: Bill Kubol, Housing and Community Development Expert specializing in HUD programs, Consolidated Plans, and IDIS; Chris Andrews, Planning Analyst with the Cloudburst Consulting Group. His work focuses on the eCon Planning Suite and data analysis. Meg Barclay, HUD Project Manager, overseeing the development and implementation of the eCon Planning Suite. And Caitlin Ott, HUD Assistant Project Manager, overseeing the development and implementation of the eCon Planning Suite. Before we begin today's presentation, I would like to make some logistical announcements. Today's webinar will last approximately 90 minutes and is being recorded. The webinar recording and PowerPoint presentation will be posted next week on the One CPD Resource Exchange Training and Events page at the web address shown on your screen. An email will be sent to all attendees following the presentation with instructions for how to get credit for this training, and also to request that you complete the feedback survey. Because of the large size of the audience, all attendees will remain on mute for the duration of the webcast. There may also be a slight delay in the advancement of the slides due to the large audience size. You may submit questions in the question and answer pod at the left of your screen at any time. Your questions are important to us. There will be a formal question and answer session at the end of the webinar. However, we may not have time to answer all of them during the webinar. If we do not get to your question, please submit them to the One CPD Ask a Question at the web address on your screen. Please remember to reference this presentation, eCon Planning Suite Question and Answer webinar, in your question. If you experience any technical difficulties, please also request assistance by using the question and answer pod at the left of your screen, and we will do our best to assist you. At certain points in today's presentation, we will be sharing our own computer screens in order to demonstrate the website. In order to see this most clearly, you will want to click the full screen button displayed on the upper right side of the window, which currently shows the PowerPoint slides in the Adobe Connect room. This will maximize the shared screen. In order to submit a question, you will need to click the full screen button a second time to resume a normal window size. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Bill to begin the presentation.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. We are going to spend a quick moment here going through some of the updates to both CPD Maps and to the IDIS template, just kind of what's new. And then we are going to be spending a lot of time asking questions, getting your questions answered. So I'm gonna go through the material real quick. As stated, over on the left-hand side, you're going to see that Q&A toolbox. So if you have a question, it doesn't even need to be necessarily related to the content I'm covering at that point. It can be related to any part of CPD Maps or anything to do with the IDIS template, action plan, comp plan, or CAPER. So just go ahead and make sure you get your questions answered. So in terms of CPD Maps, the parts we're going to demo today is we just got a new update to CPD Maps. I think it was yesterday. Hopefully it's going to be safer, not safer, but you know, basically faster, more reliable. And there's a couple little tweaks to it and on how it will work. It's mostly the same functionality, but we want to show you some of the new features there. One of the new features that has been around for a little bit, but we just want to make sure everybody's aware of it, is the upload point file. And this allows you to upload your own data into the system. And then with the IDIS template, we will demonstrate how to copy an annual action plan. There's a couple reasons you might want to do that. One is if you need to make amendments. We'll also talk about the CAPER template, and we will go over the corresponding report that you can pull out of MicroStrategy called the ConPlan Goals and Accomplishments Report. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next slide here. So some of the updates with CPD Maps is, number one, is going to be based on a Java-based platform. You don't really have to worry about that. What it means to us is that basically it's going to work a little bit faster and it's not going to stall quite as much. The look and feel will be a little different, but again, the functionality is still there. And then again, we want to cover the upload point file widget. It is available now. It's been available for a little bit. And again, what it allows you to do is upload your own customized data and combine that with the HUD-provided data. So what we're going to do now is we are going to do a little screen share. So if we can switch over to the screen share template, I will go ahead and pull up CPD Maps. And if there's any issues with what you guys are seeing, please let me know. So here's CPD Maps. A couple things to note is when you used to log into CPD Maps, you would see the Guide Me wizard right away. Now, that has been replaced by this simple little search box up here, and it's actually very elegant, a lot more user-friendly than that other box, so the Guide Me. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to use Hammond, Indiana, community I'm familiar with. So as soon as you type that into the box, and again, this is replacing the Guide Me wizard, you get a little pop-up box here, and it's showing you what matches your query up here. So Hammond, CDBG, ESG, Home and Hopwa, and then the continuum of care. I'll just go ahead and choose CDBG. And just like the earlier versions of CPD Maps, it zooms in to your community or to the community you typed in. It gives it a nice black bold border and gives you the grantee summary. So nothing's really changed about that. That's still the same functionality. With our widgets are still located across the top, and you'll see the same ones you've seen, except with these final two over here, and I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate those. We had a base map functionality before. It's just, again, the look and feel is different, and we actually have more options here. So if I click on base map here, it's going to basically change the underlying, the background of the map, if you will, and you still have your satellite imagery, so that looks like you're up in space. You have imagery with some labels, just plain old streets, light gray canvas. So play around. The one thing I would note about this is for each different base map, the level of detail is going to change as you zoom in. So just be aware of that. So if I click on, I was using National Geographic before, so you play around with it, and as you zoom in and zoom out, the base maps will be updated as well. So that is a new feature. If you are using just your regular maps, you might want to use streets. One tip I usually point out is if you're going to do a thematic map, just make sure the map's not too busy. Use the nice light gray canvas, and that makes your things pop out, your themes pop out really nicely. All right, so in addition to that, we are going to talk about some of the different kind of, again, the other widgets are the same, but there's just a little bit different functionality. So let's go ahead and take a look at our layers. This is probably one of the most commonly used widgets. And so again, we have the different categories of layers we can add to the map. If you click on the little triangles, they go up and down, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in a thematic map, extremely low income households. And I'll go ahead and show some locations as well. I'm going to go ahead and throw in some housing, and maybe a couple CDBG. So this functionality is pretty much the same. You can see, you know, before the system it sometimes would stall when you're adding this data, but again, with the new Java-based platform, it seems to be pretty quick. So that's good. A couple of the differences with the new layers map. Notice that I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different checkboxes, different layers that I've added under CDBG. If I want to clear all of those right at once, you see how CDBG is also kind of shaded in. If I click off of that, see they all disappear. So that's just a nice little time saver there for you. Okay, so before with our map layers, we also had this little gear widget over here to the right of each layer, and that's how you would basically adjust how that layer appears on the map. We still have that, and if you hover over any of those layers, I know it might be hard to see on your screen, but if you click for settings, you see how that popped up? You can also right-click each one and just choose layer settings. And that's going to pull up that, again, the settings dialog box where you can adjust how that layer is appearing on your map. Every layer will have this slider bar for whether it's transparent or opaque. For my point layers, it makes sense to do opaque. But this is a nice new feature not everybody knows about quite yet, is I can choose, and this is especially helpful for our state grantees out there, whether I want to display the information just for my state property locations or my entitlement property locations. Since I'm with Hammond, maybe I would choose entitlement. And then I can also choose what year I want to go ahead and display. So in this case, I'm just going to display the last 4 years. Now, I could go ahead and do the same adjustments for each one of those layers I'm displaying. I can also just click Apply to All, and then basically that's going to apply these settings that I just did for each one of these layers. So if I go to Housing, you see that it adjusted those same settings, well, at least for the year. Maybe I need to come back and do entitlement there. All right, so again, same functionality, just a little bit different with the look and feel. Don't be scared off that there's no gear here. All you have to do is hover over this and click for settings pops up, or if you right click, you can choose layer settings. So again, same functionality, just slightly different how you use it. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and take a look at a couple of the other things that have changed. One thing that I should point out is before, again, the map will change based on how far you zoom in and zoom out. And one of the things they've added is basically you should be able to see the thematic layers. They used to disappear if you zoomed out to see a larger geography, but now you should be able to zoom out pretty far and still actually get that that display. So you can see, you know, I'm displaying, you know, half of Indiana here, and it's loading pretty quick, and it's still showing me my my color themes at the census tract level. So those of you who are in big, large urban counties or states, this should be a helpful feature to you. Okay, so a couple other things I want to show. I'm going to go ahead and get back into to Hammond. Can't find it, so I'll just click on the search button. One of the other features I'm going to show you is the Identify tool. That is one tool that used to be up here. It used to look like a little speech balloon. That is now gone, and that's just actually built in directly into the system. So instead of actually having to select that, I just go to something I want information on, and I can click on it. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to actually, one thing that is a little difficult to do, though, is sometimes click on these point icons when you're zoomed far out. So if I click on that, you can see it's pulling up the data for the census tract. But I clicked right on that house. I know I did, but you know, sometimes it's hard to see. Oh, there it is. I did good, and I clicked on it. Typically, just a tip is if you kind of hide some of the other layers and then zoom in, then if you click on the icons, it's a little easier. See, I think maybe that one doesn't have any information. Or let's see this one. Again, sometimes it's kind of hard to click on those point icons and get the data. You have to be a little precise. Let's try this one right here. There we go. And you can see, again, it's the same functionality as the identify tool before. You just got to be really kind of precise in terms of where you click on it. If you do click on something with multiple layers, so right now I have 2 layers displayed. I have extremely low percentage of extremely low income households, and I also have those point layers. If I click on that point again, notice that it highlights, it highlights the census tract I selected, and I have this little triangle over here. If I click on that, it switches between the data for my specific house, my point layer that I clicked on, or the census tract layer. Okay? So same functionality there, just a little bit different in terms of how you're going to use it. Let's keep going. Let's demonstrate the point upload file. So let's see if I'm going to switch back to a slide or not. No, let's just go ahead and talk about it. So the point, oh, we're going to switch back. So we are going to be, all right. So when you're uploading the data into the system, what it's going to do is it's going to geocode an Excel file that you have. So what that means is basically you have to have this Excel file in a very specific format, but once you do that, if you have just regular address information, you can upload that into the maps and display it on the maps. This can be a really powerful tool in order to combine your data, your customized data, with the data in that's already available in the HUD system and CPD Maps. So for example, let's say you wanted to map all of your down payment assistance properties or all of your single-family rehab properties, all your NSP properties. It doesn't even have to be property related. It could be all the daycare centers in your community because you want to display that there's a disparity and one neighborhood doesn't have a daycare center. There's lots of different ways you can use this. So each layer that you upload can include up to 3,000 different points, so that's quite a bit. You can also do multiple layers. So if you wanted to break it out and display, your NSP homes in one color and your home funded properties in another color, you can do that as well. So we're going to walk through this. What it's going to do is it's going to basically geocode those addresses, which means it's going to assign it a latitude and a longitude. And once you do that, it's going to create a new file, and anytime you want to load that file again, it's going to work a lot faster. So let's go back to the screen share. And again, folks, in order to make this look big and nice and be able to see everything, you might want to go to full screen. Okay, so what I did is I just created a small little file. I'm going to go ahead and clear my map just so we'll be able to see this nice and clean. And I'm going to click on the upload. And so I get a couple boxes. I get my map layers again, and I see this the upload dialog box. First thing I want to do is just choose how I want that data displayed on my map. I'm going to choose a nice, how about a nice red pin, and I just mapped a couple of daycare centers, so I'm going to call my layer daycare centers, and it's asking me to upload a file. So I just click on choose file. Note it says it has to be in the XLSX format, which is the new Excel format. Before I do that, actually, let me go ahead and click on this help button down here at the bottom. And what this will do, this is also in the manual, but if you just want a quick refresher, if you click on help, it's going to tell you exactly how that file has to be structured. So in the first row, you're going to need column headers, and it tells you the cell numbers, A1, B1, C1. Basically, in those first columns, you need address, city, state, and zip code. You can actually have additional information in the table, and you'll see my table does. But as long as your first 4 columns have that information and they start with these column headers, you should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you the file I'm going to upload. So here I have my address, I have my city, state, zip code, and then I actually added 2 additional columns. What's nice about the system, it will actually just pull this information into the system as well. So if I use that identify tool, it will display this information. So let's go to choose file, and I just have it in my document on my desktop. So I'll find that file. You can see it's spinning. It's going through the process here, uploading and processing. This actually went a lot faster last time. It just really blew through it. I'm guessing that this is based on the number of users on the system, so some of you might be trying this at the same time. But what it's going to do is it's going to go through each record in that Excel file, and it's going to try to put a little pin on the map. Now, some of them it's not going to be able to find. And the system is going to spit out a file, and it will tell us which ones it found and which ones it did not. So let's just give it one more second here. It's at 90%. While we wait for that, let me show you the file that it looks like afterwards. So basically what it's doing is it's turning it into, it's adding these extra columns. So here are my original columns right here. I'll just go ahead and highlight those in yellow. And it added these additional columns here. The GSC, it just means that's the geocoded information. And you can see my first two columns here, it assigned a latitude and longitude, so it was able to find those addresses. However, these two it could not find. So for whatever reason, it could not go ahead and put those on the maps. You might want to come back and verify that it's the correct address. Maybe that you take out the commas instead of AVE, you change it to avenue, change the zip code. But you can come back and rerun this and try to get everything mapped. There's going to be some cases where it's not going to be able to find all of them. But again, once it actually develops this spreadsheet, then you'll be able to actually go back and load this spreadsheet instead of the original one, and it's going to load a lot faster. So it looks like it's kind of hanging up here. Let me go ahead and just load the existing file. Oops, not liking that. Let me try it one more time. So folks, just go ahead and keep your questions coming. It looks like we got a good number of them so far. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the IDIS template, but after that, we are going to wrap it up, and we are going to we're going to just go through the questions. We're going to summarize the questions that you guys have asked so far and try to get you some answers. Let's try one more time, folks, and see if I can get this this one loaded. I have tried with several hundred records. It did actually finish and work, but you might want to go to lunch while you wait. It's not something you want to just sit around and stare at. So just a few records should go really fast. If you're doing anything like hundreds of records or up to the max of 1,000 records or the 3,000 records, then you might want to do that, during lunch break or overnight. So actually, I'm going to let this kind of spin in the background. And let's go ahead and move on to the annual action plan in IDIS. So I'm going to switch back to the slides, if we can flip back to the slides. And we are going to start on slide number 13. So we're just going to advance it a couple. Actually, let me go back one. And so what you might not be able to see the screen here. But what is going to happen is once it actually loads that, you're going to get a little box up here that gives you a summary. It says it uploaded a total, in this case, a total of 8 records. It mapped 7 records. It was missing 1. And then it's going to give you a little link. It says download the updated Excel file from here. And again, that's when it shows you the lat, longitude, if you ever want to load this file again and you don't want to have to wait for it to geocode, you definitely want to download this and save it somewhere, and then the next time you want to display it on the map, you load the updated Excel file as opposed to the original. And then over on here, you can see how it's displayed in the map layers box, and it's just like any other layer where you can check it and uncheck it to display it. So one thing people have been concerned about is like, okay, once I load this information into the maps, can everybody see it? And that's not the case. There's no way to save the information to the system. Basically, every time you want to add this to the map, you are going to reload it from your computer. So you're not really sharing it with the world. All right, so we are going to move on and display a couple of the features that people have been asking a lot of questions about, some of the newer features regarding the templates in IDIS. Number one, we're going to talk about how to copy an annual action plan. So there's basically two reasons you would want to copy an annual action plan. Number one is if you want to amend your current action plan. So let's say you're a July to June grantee, you submitted your plan back in right before July, and now you come back and your boss says you have to make 3 substantial amendments or 3 projects that you need to fund. How are you going to change that information in the system? Because as soon as you send it to HUD and it's approved, that plan becomes read-only. Well, the way to do it is to actually make a copy of that plan you submitted to HUD, and once you make a copy, then you can go ahead and make edits to the copy. At that point, you're going to resubmit it to HUD, and when you do that, then the copy, the changes to that plan will be available to you when you do your caper. The second reason you would want to make a copy of your action plan is when you're ready to copy from one year to the next. So I'm helping a couple grantees do this right now, where we go from 2013 to 2014. They don't want to have to type in all of the narrative from that essentially in a lot of cases hasn't changed from 2013 to 2014. So they copy it, they save themselves a lot of time. We're going to demonstrate how to do that. So one thing to note is the new copy will include any attachments you made to the original, all additional content. So if you included any maps or pictures or tables, all of that's going to copy over. And we just wanted to quickly refer to the page. It should be on page 233 of your manual. And that will explain kind of the details. Again, we're just going to go through it pretty quick. Okay. So when we copy plans for amendments, again, once the plan is approved, this is things I just kind of went over. The action plan is it's read-only, so to make changes, we have to make a copy. One point is you're going to have to indicate whether the copy is a minor or a substantial amendment. If it's minor, essentially you don't have to go through that additional citizen participation. If it's what's considered a substantial amendment for your own citizen participation plan, then you'd have to do a little bit of additional citizen outreach. So to amend the plan, what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy. We're going to, if it's a substantial, we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. We'll provide an explanation, and then we're going to resubmit it to HUD. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch back to the screen share. Okay, and hopefully I'm logged in to IDIS still. We'll see. Nope. Should be real quick, though, to get back in there. Okay, so we're going to stick with Hammond. And we are going to go straight to the Plans, Projects, and Activities tab. In IDIS, this is where you're going to have all of your annual action plans, con plans, and capers. So what we're going to do here is Hammond did submit their 2013 action plan to HUD. We're going to come in here and say, okay, we're getting ready to do our 2014 plan. So you'll see that I have add, copy, and search. One thing you'll need to know when you copy an action plan is the version that you want to copy. So before I do copy, I'm just going to come in to do to search. And I'll just search for my plans here. So this is the one that they actually submitted to HUD, so review completed. Notice over in this action column, I can't change that. right? I cannot change that. In order to make changes to this plan that I submitted to HUD, I would have to actually make a copy. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'll go actually demonstrate how to make a copy for a substantial amendment. Let's do that instead. So I'm going to copy version 1.1 of 2013. So again, you need that version number. I click on copy, and right here, 2013 version 1.1, that's the one I want to copy. And I'm going to copy it to 2013, and I'm just going to do version 1.2. Now, the version number is totally up to you. This doesn't have to be 1.0, 2.0, something like that. If you wanted to use the month in which you're submitting it, like this could be the July version, this could be the October version. Anything that shows something that's sequential in nature, I think would work. So in terms of amendment, we're going to consider this a substantial amendment. So let's go ahead and do substantial. One thing you got to note is if you are doing an amendment, of course the year is going to stay the same, right? I can't do an amendment if I'm moving this from 2013 to 2014. I go ahead and hit copy. And what it will do is it will display all of my different action plans. So if I show you, here's my version 1.1. This is the original I submitted to HUD. You can notice that's still view only. Now 1.2, I have my copy, and this is the one I can come in and edit. So let's say we wanted to add a couple projects. I would come in here, I would click on edit. I would make any changes I need to, but in order for those changes to be fully processed, you need to remember to come into AD26, which is your admin, and basically come in here. So this is where you might have seen this when you created your first action plan. If it's an amendment, it's substantial. What's nice about this is you can go ahead and use this box to explain exactly to your HUD rep what exactly you amended, and that way they don't have to search through the entire plan just to find out a couple little changes. So this is a nice little feature here. And just make sure that you come down here, and you can see, again, all of my all the attachments that I had included are copied. And I just need to make sure my status is going to submit it for review, and then I save it. And that way HUD will see it, and any changes I made here for my amendment will actually show up in my CAPER template as well. So let's go ahead and jump back to the slides real quick, and I just want to show you a couple things in terms of copying from one year to a new year. So that was copying for the plan amendments. Now, copying to a new year, all the information will copy just like we saw with the amendment, including project data. And I have an issue. I wrote this bullet, and I think I want to correct it. It says copied projects from, let's say we copied from 2013 to 2014, then we would have new projects in 2014. That's actually not true right now. What happens is if you copy a project, or a plan rather, from 2013 to 2014, it's going to include all those projects, but they're still associated with 2013. So we'll see how that will work out when we go through the demo. So let's go ahead and, let's do this. 2 ways to add the projects to the plan. So when we get to that screen, you'll see that you can basically carry forward a project from a prior year. And you can use this in cases where, let's say, you had a large public improvements project. Let's say it's a street improvements project, or maybe a large rental project. And you provided some funding in 2013, and you want to fund that same exact project in 2014. Well, it doesn't make any sense to create a new project and a new activity in 2014. It would make more sense to carry that 2013 project into your 2014 plan. So when you do that, again, you're not going to actually create a new project in IDIS for 2014. It's going to basically, you're going to be amending the 2013 project as part of your 2014 plan. Okay, so the other part is this bullet right here, creating a new project for the annual action plan. Just a quick note here is if you were just given IDIS access to set up your plans, and you've never been into set up activities or update activities, you need to have these privileges in order to add projects to your action plan. So if you're not sure, just check with your local IDIS administrator or your local HUD field office, and they'll be able to tell you what your privileges are. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch back to the screen share. And now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the couple different ways you can add projects. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll use this copy. So remember, this is a copy. Let's go ahead and I'm going to actually pull up a copy from earlier before the webinar started. I had copied that 2013 plan that was submitted to my 2014 copy. So this is the same thing as I copied my 2013 version 1.1 to this 2014, so you can see this is a copy as well. We'll go ahead and demonstrate on this one. And I'm going to scroll on down to AP 35. That's where I can find all my projects. And you can see that, basically I had 20 projects in 2013. I have 20 projects in 2014. If I click on edit for one of these, you'll see that this project, again, it's still associated with program year 2013. So when I actually submit this plan to HUD, when I get this plan approved, it's not going to create a project called Owner-Occupied Housing Rehab in 2014. If that's the case, if you want to divvy up your information, the activity information and the project information, what you'd want to do is you'd want to come in here and click remove. And when I click remove, it'll ask me, are you sure you want to remove it? I'm not going to do that right now. But basically, what you do is you would remove it and then actually use this feature down here, add a project, to add a completely new project for 2014. Okay? So again, you can copy your projects over from 2013 to 2014 if you actually made a copy of your plan. You can actually just make copies of specific projects using this search box up here. So let's say I'm going to pull up all my 2013 projects. I hit search. And you can see I only have one 2013 project. Well, let's do 2012. Okay, so here's my 2012 projects. You can see over in my action column over here, I have an add link. So, if I wanted to carry forward any of these projects from 2012 to my next year, I could click add. Again, when I do this, I'm not creating a new project for the new year. It's basically saying this project from 2012 is getting additional funding from my 2014 plan. So most of you probably won't want to do that. In fact, for home and ESG, you really shouldn't do that. For ESG, the specific guidance is to set up a brand new project for each year. So for ESG, you definitely wouldn't want to do that. With home, they have those special appropriation rules for 2012 and 13, so you might want to avoid that as well, and maybe just set up new projects. For CDBG, that's probably your best bet if you want to use it for CDBG. I imagine most of you will just want to come in here and create a new project. And what that will do is just give you a blank slate. You can see that this project is going to be associated with 2014. So I'm going to go back to my owner-occupied rehab example. You give it an ID, you give it some descriptions. I go ahead and answer all this information, and I hit save. And that's probably how most of you will be adding projects to your plan. Okay, so now I have this owner-occupied that I carry forward, and here's the one I just added. If I click on edit there, you'll see that this one is associated with my 2014. So if you're a grantee who really relies on your PRO2, which is organized by program year and project ID, you'll probably want to use that add new project feature. Okay, so let's go back to the slides, and I just want to talk about a couple project issues that we've been seeing on the Ask a Question. Okay, so some common project issues that we've seen is basically, again, including those existing projects instead of adding new projects. So if you want your data, all of your 2014 information, for example, to be associated with the 2014 project, what you need to do is basically use that remove feature to remove the existing projects, anything associated with an older year, and then just add new projects. if you're really far into your year and you're like right now preparing to do your CAPR, that might not be the best time to do it. But you know, if you're at the beginning of the year or in the middle of the year, you might think about that. When you're adding a project for each activity, some grantees like to do this, and you end up with a really big, long list of projects. What you can do is you can group similar activities into one action plan project and then break out the information at the activity level in the description in the planned activity section. You'll want to work with your HUD rep. Some HUD reps like to see separate projects for each and every award you're giving out. Others will let you do the grouping. If you do the grouping, just go ahead and make sure you kind of call out the activity level details that you know at that time in the description in the planned activity section. Those are kind of the narrative sections of the project screen. One thing to note, and for those folks who definitely attended the trainings that we had across the country and we were practicing in your real data, what you need to make sure is you delete any projects that will not be used, any projects that you create on practice plans or any data entry errors. As soon as you create a project in the system, so for example, I'm using the training region right now, so it doesn't matter, but as soon as I hit save on that 2014 owner-occupied rehab, it added that project to the other parts of IDIS. So if I was just practicing and I was going to add that same project later on as part of my real plan, my real submission, I would want to go ahead and delete out the project that I just created. So go ahead and use that delete projects feature. That's available under the projects section of IDIS, and I don't know if it's called delete. It might be called canceled. It has the same effect if you cancel the project. So, folks, I just want to encourage you to keep those questions coming. Let's actually go back to the slideshow just for one more second here, if we can. Go back to the slideshow. What we're going to do now is talk about the CAPR template and the con plan goals and accomplishments report. So just the CAPR template basics, again, just like the annual action plan and the con plan, the CAPR template in IDIS is based completely on the regs. And in this case, the regs for the CAPR are found under 24 Part CFR 91.520. So what you see in the system is based completely on those regs. This is a little different than the guidance we may have seen in the past. Other CAPR information, it's due 90 days to HUD after the close of your program year. That's going to be different for each of you based on when your program year ends. So some of you start in July, some of you start in October. It's going to be based on 90 days after the close of your year. The purpose of the CAPR is to report on the progress in carrying out the plans you talked about in your annual action plan, and comparison of proposed and versus actual outcomes. And this is where the CAPR template should help you out in that now that we have our annual action plan in the system and we've always been tracking our outcomes in terms of accomplishments in IDIS at the activity level, this information, the system is going to be able to pre-populate a lot of this information for you. The audience is both HUD and the public, so when you're writing your CAPR, make sure you don't speak in HUD jargon. You try to make it understandable to the average Joe off the street. And again, we're going to go through it real quick, so if you have any questions in terms of some of the details, please refer to Section 5 of the eCon manual, which in this version is on page 237 to 281. I should also note that a lot of the changes we made to CPD Maps, we are currently working on the materials, and those should be updated pretty quick, and we'll get those up on the web so you can download a fresh copy. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I believe I have one more slide before we go to screen share here. So when you're using the CAPR template, just a couple things you want to think about. This is kind of just an outline of the general process. One, and this kind of gets back to what we just talked about, is are all of the amendments made to the con plan and action plan, have those been processed in the system. So again, if you don't use that copy feature to amend your plan, then when you make your caper, it's going to be pulling from dated information. So make sure that you get all your amendments to your con plan and action plan processed in the system before you start working on your caper. Of course, you always have to update all the activity level data in IDIS, so that means providing accomplishment data and also changing the status to complete when applicable, especially for your home activities. It's, you can't really overstate that in terms of home. You want to run your con plan goals and accomplishments report, and we're going to demonstrate how to do that. You evaluate the performance of the projects and programs. You write your narratives, and then we're going to go ahead and create and edit the caper template. If you want, it has that same feature just like the action plan and the con plan, where you can download it as a Word document and basically draft it in Word as opposed to into the system. And you can also use that to create the version for your public participation requirements. And then finally, we're going to submit to HUD within 90 days of the close of the program year. All right, so let's go ahead and walk through that in the screen share. So if we can switch back to screen share. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to take a look at our caper. So basically, it's very simple. All you do is, again, we're under Plans, Projects, Activities. I come down to Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is our caper, and I click on Add. It's going to ask me for a program year, 2014. Title, I'll just call it Hammond Annual Report. And a version, I'll go ahead and say 2.0 because I already practiced with 1.0. I hit Save. Oh, no approved plan was found for Hammond 2014. I should have used, oh, this is a good example. We're going to learn by mistakes, right? So it's not going to let me create a caper unless I submitted my annual action plan or my con plan via IDIS. But some of you might be out there who receive ESG funds. And even if you didn't use your IDIS to submit your action plan or caper, you still need to actually create a caper, what they call an ESG-only caper in the system. So that's why it's asking me this question, is this caper for ESG? I could go ahead and click on yes. So actually, we already submitted our 2013 plan. So I'm just going to switch this to 2013, see if it works. I might have to start over again here. And I'll say 2000, I'll say no here. Let's try that again. It's nice to know sometimes even when the IDIS trainers make mistakes, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do version 2.0 for 2013. And it's important to get the right program year in there because it's going to be pulling from those goals and those accomplishments. So again, folks, I just want to take this moment to encourage you to, again, get your questions in there. Chris, how are we doing in terms of questions? We got a good night's long list?
We do. We do have a good list of questions both on CPD Maps and the comp plan template.
Beautiful. All right. I hope we can get to them all. So this is what the template looks like, folks. You can see it's nice and short. I just want to demonstrate a couple of fields and a couple of screens. So number one is CR05, which is goals and outcomes. I click on that. And what you're going to see here is a couple narratives, but most importantly, we have table 1, which is the accomplishments for the program year. And a little later on, we have accomplishment 2, accomplishments for the strategic plan. So number 1, table 1 is basically for the current year, and table 2 is for your plan, your con plan to date. So for each table, what it's going to do is it's going to pull in your goals and the funding and the goals, the outcome indicators from your annual action plan. And what it will also do, it will also populate the actual. In this case, Hammond, they haven't actually, their program year doesn't end till the end of March, so they might not have gone in and reported any data yet. But what it's going to do is it's going to pre-populate and create this table for you. Notice, though, for expected, that information is frozen. That's read-only. But with actual, you can come in and update this information. So if you, for any reason, think that this information is incorrect, it should be pulling from your activity level data. So it could be that you haven't reported at the activity level yet, but you can come in and update this information, and you can see that I can come in and do that right here. So it's not holding you hostage to that. You can come and manually update these fields. So it's a nice little feature. Now, one thing that, especially in these first couple years that you use the Caper template, what you're going to have to do is basically verify that, especially for projects that were implemented before you started using the templates, are captured on this report. Because let's say, for example, you funded something in 2011, you didn't first start using the planning tools, the templates, until 2012. Well, that 2011 project that actually just built out its housing this year, it's not automatically going to show up on here. So you need a way to figure that out. And that's where the Con-Plan Goals and Accomplishments report you can pull from MicroStrategy will come in handy. So it's just like any other report you can pull from the report section. Why don't we go ahead and flip back, and Deirdre, if you can pull up that that PDF file I showed you earlier. So this is an example, folks, and I'm going to go ahead and do full screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. But first thing to note is it's basically 3 different sections. Section 1 is accomplishments associated with a single strategic plan goal. So these are just really cut and dry, where basically, in this case, we're looking at San Antonio. San Antonio, they had lots of different goals, and basically here you can see the funding and source amount, the outcome indicator, they said, what they're measuring, whether it's a household, persons, what have you, and then the system is actually calculating and coming up with what the actual program outcome was. So these are cut and dry, where basically you said this one specific activity, this one specific project, it's tied to this strategic plan goal. So that one's just really cut and dry. The next section is where you may have tied that specific project in your action plan to more than one strategic plan, or strategic plan goal, I should say. Accomplishments associated with more than one strategic plan goal. So here you can see that in San Antonio's case, they were very good, and they didn't do that. They basically just said that this one project is associated with this goal. What you would have to do here is basically manually determine, okay, let's say I had 3 rows here. Let's say I helped 100 households down here. I would want to say, well, this isn't going to show up in my template anywhere. I'm going to have to manually fit it into this first section right here. You're going to see the same thing down here under Part 3, which is accomplishments not associated with the strategic plan goal. You would think that nothing should be under here, and in fact, nothing is right now. But again, for those older projects that may have been budgeted and funded before you started using the template, you had no way of associating those projects and those accomplishments with a strategic plan goal. So what you would do, again, is you would take this information that's going to be listed in this section, and you would be moving it up to this section right here in Table 1. And again, so the idea is to come up with one table that incorporates and covers all of the accomplishments for that program year. Again, hopefully this will be automated eventually. What we need to do is, in the first couple years, though, is basically kind of pick up those older projects that that might not be captured automatically by the system. So let's go ahead and switch back to the slides, and we're going to wrap it up so we give you guys a lot of time to get those questions asked and answered. So Donna, do you want to kind of just review how to ask a question, and then we can go right into the Q&A?
Sure. Thank you, Bill. We'll now open the webinar to questions. Due to the large audience size, we will only be able to respond to written questions. Please use the question and answer pod, Q&A pod, to the left of your screen to submit your questions, and our presenters will respond to them. Chris?
Great. Bill, there have been a number of questions asking about all the resources you've talked about, desk guides and toolkits and other resources. Can you just demo really quick where those are all posted on the HUD website?
Sure. If we can go back to the screen share mode, I can go ahead and pull that up real quick. So, it's kind of a running joke about the HUD website in terms of being able to find things. So most people actually just do go to Google. So if you just type in, HUD Consolidated Plan in Google, typically it's one of the very first choices, but that's what I usually do. Might be of a different generation. But once you go to, if you want to go the old school way, you can use the ADZ index and find consolidated planning there. Otherwise, if you follow the tree, it's under community planning development. You go to about and then consolidated planning. You can listen to a nice little video from the secretary, but the manuals and everything is over here on the right where you see I am looking for, and we have the eCon planning suite for the ConPlan and IDIS. And we also have it for mapping. So note that there are two different manuals here. Let me just click on the ConPlan and IDIS one. Not only do we have the ConPlan manual, we also have a troubleshooting guide. So as with any new technology, there's been a couple glitches and bugs along the way. So if you click on this troubleshooting guide, it will talk about workarounds and ways to address any bugs you run into. So really good resource. I highly recommend you look at that as you kind of dive into this. I believe this information is also on the OneCPD website. I have not checked, but this is typically where I would go to find that information. Megan and Caitlin, feel free to chime in to let us know if the OneCPD website it's basically the same information.
This is Meg. A lot of the resources are on the OneCPD website, but I don't know if we can get back to the website again. We're looking at, we need to get to the website, thanks. So a lot of them are on the website, but one thing I would want to point out, somebody asked if we were going to be sending out all the questions and answers, and a lot of the questions and answers are also covered in that troubleshooting guide. You see the link to it right underneath the ConPlan manual. So that's sort of a list of questions, especially by screen as you're going through the template. So that would be one good place to look, and you download it as I think it's a PDF or an Excel file. But that's something to keep in mind as a resource if you have any questions as you're going through the screen. We also have FAQs on the website as well. So a lot of these questions that we're getting today that I'm seeing in the box are covered either in the troubleshooting guide or the FAQs.
Great, thanks. What else do we have, Chris?
So Bill, let's start talking about projects. As you were going over that, a number of questions came in, and you touched upon this a little bit. But can you just talk through the process one more time of either carrying over a project from year to year or copying a project from year to year, and what that process looks like?
Sure. So again, there's a couple ways to think about it. Number one, and let me just pull up an annual action plan here. And I'll go to 2014. So I copied a 2013 project into 2014. Now, when I did that, all of my projects from 2013 are carrying forward into my 2014 year. So if I go to any of these projects here, these are actually not 2014 projects. These are, if I look at, let's say park improvements, I come and click edit, it's still associated with 2013. So that means when I come over to set up activities, and I go to add activity, and I look for my 2014 park project, there's not going to be one. It's going to be associated. I would have to look under 2013 to find that park project. So if that's the case, if you want to have a separate project for 2013 and a separate project for 2014, what you need to do is come in here and click remove, and that's going to take this park project, this 2013 park project, out of my 2014 plan, and then I would come in and add a new project for 2014. I think that's what most of you are going to want to do. Now let's go in, and I'm just going to create a new action plan, just, brand new action plan, nothing's there. I'll just call this test. So you can kind of see what it looks like. Bare bones, not a copy. So this is what you're going to see if you just create a plan from scratch. This is the first time you're using it. You're not making a copy. We have an add an existing project button, so I click on that. And here I have two options. I can either search for a project in which I want to carry forward, and this would basically be exactly like copying the entire action plan, where I'm not going to have a separate 2013 project and a 2014 project. I would just be basically increasing the funding or extending the scope of that 2013 project and including it in my 2014. Most of you, I imagine, will want to use this link right here, which is create a new project. And that allows you to basically separate out your information by program year. Does that get to the meat of the questions you had been asked, Chris?
I think so. And then one follow-up question on projects. Now that projects are being set up in the action plan, what is the relationship between those being set up in the action plan and what's being set up outside in IDIS?
Very good question. So let's go ahead and just stick with this. I'm in 2015 actually. I'm way into the future, right? I'm ahead of the game here. So I'm going to add an existing project. And what you'll see is I'm just going to go ahead and call this something totally wacky here. So it stands out. And all the other fields I should be filling out, but for the sake of time. So it saves my project, right? I see that list right here. If I click on Edit, you can see that it assigned it to 2015 and project number 1, right? So as soon as I create this project, I don't even have to submit this plan to HUD. This could be just some bogus plan I'm using as a practice. Some silly IDIS trainer told me to set up a project during the training, and all of a sudden, guess what? When you look at your project list over here, if I go to project search, this is the old, the traditional version of IDIS. This is where you would go before the templates were around. And I look for 2015. Guess what? You're going to see that project there. So I don't even have to submit this plan to HUD. It's basically in there as soon as I save it as part of even a draft plan. So what I was saying is before is if you were practicing, if you were playing around and created a draft practice plan in the system, and I never intended to actually fund this project, I would want to come in here under projects and cancel the project. Now it's going to stay in the system, but basically it's going to show up as canceled, so you can basically disregard it at that point. You might want to change something in the description to say this project was set up in error, or this project was set up as a practice, something along those lines. But yeah, as soon as you create a project in your annual action plan, that's going to show up on your project list here. And also when you're creating your activities, you'd be able to associate an activity with this project. So that's one of the nice benefits of using the action plan template is once I get the information in once in my action plan template, I would not have to come back in here and reset up those projects under this part of IDIS where you typically do. So hopefully that got to the question. Any follow-up?
One more follow-up on projects. We'll move to a new topic. Can you just explain the difference between projects and activities and their relationship within the comp plan?
So projects, basically projects were, there's two levels of data in IDIS. There's the project level and the activity level. HUD has really never issued a lot of guidance on how many projects you need to add. It was more, they wanted to leave it vague just because a lot of grantees handle the action plan process differently. But the projects in IDIS are meant to basically mirror and capture the information that was submitted as part of your annual action plan. So as we saw, the annual action plan, part of the action plan regs is saying, give us a list of proposed projects that you're going to spend money on. And again, the information in the regs is deliberately vague just because some people may say, well, we want to spend money on, youth and helping disadvantaged youth, but they don't know exactly what the details of that project are going to be. So you can be very vague at the project level. But when you get to the activity level, that's where you have to be more specific. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of what each activity represents because it's different for each program. But basically, the project, in a very general sense, the project can be very vague. The activities are much more specific. I'll give you a few examples. For ESG, there's guidance for each program out there on the web and under the specific HUD program pages. But for ESG, you're going to set up one project for ESG to incorporate the entire ESG funding, and then a separate activity for each eligible use of the funds that you're going to use. So you would set up one activity to capture all of your homeless prevention money, one activity to capture all of your admin money, another one to capture all of your rapid rehousing money. So that's how the ESG folks want you to set up the ESG information in IDIS. CDBG is completely different, where basically CDBG, you need to set up enough activities to show HUD that you're meeting your national objectives, which can be different based on what you're funding. Home is a IDIS activity, represents what is called a project under the home regulations, so it's even more confusing there. But typically, and just a general rule of thumb, very general, is a IDIS activity in IDIS for home represents a specific property. So you might have a project called single-family rehab, but under that project you have 20 activities, each one representing a specific address. So, in regard to what we're talking, we're not even getting to the activity level. That comes later after the start of the program year. The project information, you should be providing enough information to make your HUD rep feel comfortable that what you plan on carrying out is both eligible and practicable and a good use of funds.
Great. Thanks, Bill. So we have a number of people on the webinar who are just beginning to get into the comp plan process for the upcoming cycle and have a couple questions of the basics of how do you download it as a Word document? What do you do if you don't see the consolidated plan or action plan in the sub-menu on the left-hand side? Could you just talk a couple minutes about some of those basics?
Sure. So one thing is, let me just start off from the home page here. So this is the page you first see, one of the pages you see when you log into IDIS. And so basically all of our plans, all of our capers, all of our comp plans, that's all going to be under the plans, projects, and